events today. This is our wrapping up event for our Constitution Day celebration. We had quite a few high school students on campus earlier today where they learned a little bit about college life and got a few mock lectures, got to see campus and got a chance to apply for free today. And that one was a great success, and I'm glad to have so much community turnout today. My name is Preston Draper. I'm a faculty member here in the newly named Department of Policy, Law, and
Politics,
Law, and Society. Yeah, so I'm used to the old way, and so, but that encompasses degrees in political science, legal studies, and sociology. And so we're grateful to have you here on behalf of the department. This is being co-sponsored by our politics clubs. So we have a College Republican Club and a Young Democrats Club here on campus. They, over the last several years, have been very cooperative in trying to get out the word on different policy options and candidates, and so I'm grateful for their cooperation. Alex Benitez is the president of our Young Democrats, and he's going to be helping us out tonight. Tyler Rogers is the president of our College Republicans, and he got delayed. I'm hoping that he'll be able to make it, so please forgive him if he has to dart in the middle of our process. There are several students that came from my classes. If you would like points, you need to you need to email me and tell me that you were here and something that you learned tonight. All right. So if you do that, then you can pick up some points. All right. We're ready to start. It is Constitution Day. We love to honor our nation and our flag, and we have a Boy Scout here from Troop 28. This is Ben Barry, and if you'd all stand, Ben's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, I'm used to yelling at students all day, so is anybody having a hard time hearing me? We okay? All right, so several of our candidates have experienced yelling at junior high students, yelling at defendants, yelling at district attorneys, yelling fire, and yelling fire sale. So anyway, we hope that you can hear them. We've got a mic, but we're limited on mics. If you can't hear, start waving your hand and we'll pull that thing out. It just makes our process a little less smooth. We're going to begin. I'm going to turn the time over to Alex just to make quick introductions of each of our candidates. We'll let, after he reads their brief biography, we'll let them stand up and wave so you know who we're talking about. And then we're going to start in. We're going to do this in 2 sessions. We're going to do the House session first. And so we have our 3 candidates for the House seat here. Alex and I will be working on some questions for them and asking them some things to try to elicit some answers that might help you in making your decision come November. And then after we do that, we're going to move into the DA's race. The questions are a little bit different because they have different focuses, and so that's why we've decided to split it up into 2 sessions like that. Would ask you just to stay through. I promise we will be done by 7:30. All right? So if you just please stay through, we'd really appreciate it. Alex?
Okay, Daniel Manuel, will you please stand up, please? Danny is a career unit firefighter with 20 years of professional experience, including significant work in risk reduction education for the public through the Ada Fire Department. He attended East Central University, earning a bachelor's degree in physical education and a master's degree in school administration. Danny has wide experience as a presenter on fire prevention, communication, youth motivation, and other topics. After suffering from back injuries, Danny embarked on an effort to improve his core strength in competing in the American Ninja Warrior Challenge 2014. He is married to Janelle and they have 2 children. So it's my distinguishable honor to introduce Daniel Manuel. Ronny Johns, can you please stand up? Ronny Johns is the principal of Ada Junior High School. He is a candidate for House District 25, born and raised in Ada. Johns is a graduate from Bing High School and in East Central University. He's been a teacher, a coach, and administrator in the Ada school system for the past 31 years. He is married. He and his wife, Renee, are parents of 3 adult children and have 2 grandchildren. Well, 2 grandchildren. They attend church at Central Church of Christ, where John serves as a church elder, Sunday school teacher, and worship leader. So it's my honor as well to introduce Ronny Johns. Okay, Gary Rhynes, will you please stand up? Gary's a local businessman who has thrown his hat in the race for Oklahoma House District 25 as an independent. Also known as Rhino, Rhynes says he's dissatisfied with the leadership of either of the majority parties in Oklahoma. So please give it up for Gary Rhynes.
Great, so we will start in with our House candidates' questions, and by anonymous draw at my office this afternoon. Mr. Johns is going to go first, and then we'll let Mr. Rhynes and Mr. Manuel. If you'll just give us a couple of minutes about why you chose to run for this seat, what your policy hopes and directions are, and make your best pitch for us.
Obviously, being an educator for 32 years, beginning my 33rd year, as an educator here in our district, and of course a lifelong member of House District 25. Running for office is something that I've always thought about doing. I got that love of government, the love of being a public servant from my dad. He taught me Oklahoma history and government as a freshman, as a junior, American history as a senior, American government again, and so he instilled that in me at that time, and so I've always kind of thought about at some point in my lifetime running for office. Again, not really wanting to be a politician, but just running for office. And I've actually thought about running a few years ago, probably, I don't know, 12, 16, I don't know, a few years back. But the timing just wasn't right. I had 3 kids at home, and just timing wasn't right there. And so I put that off. And now I'm at the age where I can retire if I'd like to, although I'd never thought about retiring because I absolutely love what I do. Still very passionate about being a principal, being an educator. But then with the term limits getting Representative Thompson, and then with the state that education was going and nothing was improving, that just kind of tipped the sails there and tipped the scales, I guess you could say, to where it kind of forced my hand, I thought. And so because of that, that's why I've entered the race. Again, just passionate about District 25 and wanting to represent you guys the best that I can.
Mr. Rhynes.
I've been around since 1951. I'm a little bit older. I'm the only guy on the stage here tonight, except for you, sir, that doesn't color his hair. I think that when I was a much younger man, had a chance to serve on the school board, and I served 3 terms. Was elected 3 times to Ada City Schools. While I was there, I hired Mr. Johns as one of the
And I appreciate it.
And it's been a great opportunity to have been in business. Our family has been in business here for 80 years. I too, as a young man, thought about doing other things, but my children were small. I'm working 6 days a week in the furniture store, and I didn't have time to do the things that I wanted to do as far as maybe reaching out to do the political part. Well, the economy has a tendency to do things in a person's life, just like opportunities in any type of job. And as the economy changed, the furniture business became not very healthy. And I decided it was a good time to do something much, much different. And with that, I then turned around and then said, you know, I've been waiting for my lifetime to get to this point, and now I too, like Ronnie, have decided this is a place that I would like to be. The big difference between me and my other 2 candidates is I'm stuck in the middle. I may be sitting on the edge here, but I'm really stuck in the middle. I'm an independent. And they say an independent doesn't have much of a chance of helping anyone. Well, I muchly disagree with that quote, because if we elect a Democrat, he's going to be in the minority. The minority is a great place to be if you're just there to be there. But if you're going to do something for your community, do something for your state, you need to be up in a place that you can be a part of the majority. In the state of Oklahoma, there's only like 7 Democrats that need to be elected to put the legislature into a position, but all of a sudden now they have to then listen to what the Democrats have to say. What if they only elect 5? And there's not that majority. I, as an independent, can step in and do some things for the county, and do some things for the city, do things for the college, that someone else might not be able to do. And after I'm elected, already part of my plan is to reach out to other people who have been elected and find those of like mind who want to do things for their county, who want to do things for their city, as opposed to just being there. And if you're a Republican and you're elected, that's wonderful, except that now you're in the majority and now you're at the bottom of the poll. Now, how do you find a way there to reach up and do things? So an independent is not exactly in a bad spot. I like the chance of being able to serve. I like the chance that our family has been able to serve this community for 80 years, and I want to change the way we have been doing it, and I'd like to do it in a way that I can go to Oklahoma City and make those things happen. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Manuel.
Preston Draper is correct. I have yelled at fire. But the sort of things I might yell at fire probably would not be appropriate for tonight. I'll start by saying that I believe the very God referenced in the Declaration of Independence created me for a purpose. And part of fulfilling that purpose is serving other people. And I've been serving this community as a professional firefighter for over 20 years now. In those 20 years, I've learned how to deal with crisis. I've responded to all manners of emergencies, structure fires, vehicle accidents, medical emergencies, and yes, an occasional cat up a tree. But you know what? As a firefighter, there's so much more to it than the 911 calls, than flashing lights and loud sirens. There are so many problems that we encounter on a daily basis. Personnel problems within the station, problems with other departments and agencies, and I'm proud to say that during my career as a native firefighter, that I always went the extra mile to boost relationships, whether it be with our local law enforcement, because you know what? Sometimes tensions are there. Relationships get strained. But there's no place for egos in emergency services. There's no place for egos at the Capitol. I'm one that's been able to put egos aside and find solutions for problems that benefit my local citizens. As a firefighter, I've had opportunities to sit down with negotiations and solve contract problems and personnel issues with city management. You know what? Sometimes we don't always see eye to eye on stuff. Sometimes we have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to learn and really consider a perspective to find solutions to our problems. Now, I believe it's right now in Oklahoma, we have problems at our capital. We really need someone that has experience solving problems. I look around today and I see this room full of people, and that's very exciting to me because these are people that care. And this isn't my first time to stand right here and speak to people. After graduating with my master's degree in school administration in 2013, I've had other opportunities to speak right here. I volunteered my time and stood right here and spoke to education field students as they got ready to go out to the schools and apply what they learned here on campus and in their books. I stood right here and volunteered most of a Saturday giving a goal-setting workshop to people that were interested in child advocacy. Giving back to my community is just a way of life for me. So there's so many things in my life that are coming together at this point to prepare me for this next step of service. And that's what this is. This is a step of service. And it's so important that I mentioned why I'm running for office. And I'm running for office because Oklahoma is in a state of crisis. And a crisis situation is one where things are bad, but they're also getting worse. And it's time to stop that. Our schools have been starved to death. I see that. As an advocate for public education, I've been walking the walk for years, going above and beyond, getting outside of my bubble. I stood right here in 2016, and whether you like State Question 779 or not, right here in this very room, I offered training to other public education advocates because that was a solution. Maybe it wasn't the best solution, but it was something that there's probably a lot of people in Oklahoma right now wishing they would have taken it because it was funding for teachers, it was funding to reduce class sizes, and there was a lot of other things tied to that. Maybe it wasn't best, but my point is I was doing something. And I can honestly say that I'm not satisfied with what's going on at the Capitol. But instead of just getting mad, shaking my fist, and complaining, I'm ready to take my problem-solving experience to the Capitol, sit down and listen, learn, find real solutions to real problems to benefit my home, Pontotoc County, which is House District 25 in the state of Oklahoma. Thank you.
All right, we're going to start with a question that is close to the hearts of many people associated with East Central University. Mr. Manuel, we'll start with you and go on down the road for answers. Alex, the question?
What will you do to make higher education more of a priority at the State House?
One thing we have to do in our state is just establish a culture of saying that education is important, that education is valuable. And to be more specific to East Central University, is one of several regional universities across the state. I've seen the cuts in funding that have happened in previous years. I believe in the last 3 or 4 years alone, it's been like 22% that state appropriations have been cut. And I've seen the impact of that. I've seen from whenever I was a student, I graduated in 2013 with a master's degree, but I've seen the changes that have happened since then. I've seen the reduction in classes. I've seen the reduction in what is offered. I've seen how the continuing education program has been completely cut, and I know what a wonderful resource that was to our community, not just to college students, but to everyone. But to be more specific about this, it's so important that we find sustainable funding solutions because you know what? Everyone can't go to OU or OSU. There's so many people like myself that while I was a student at East Central, I was a career firefighter. I was mowing 50 or 60 yards on a regular basis. You know, my wife and children were here. It wasn't practical for me to go someplace else. We need regional universities. You never know what brilliant mind or what medical discovery may come from a person that gets her start right here at a place like East Central University. So to me, it is very critical that we hold up our regional universities and that we give them what they need so that we can make our community successful.
Thank you.
Well, you can't, I mean, obviously you can't disagree with what Danny said, with all the cuts and things that we've seen to higher ed, not only to our secondary schools, but also to higher ed. And I appreciate that question. And Danny's exactly right. We got to find funding, and we got to fund our higher education and our colleges. In our regional universities are obviously vital not only to just the town of Ada, but also to our area. Just like Southeastern's vital to Durant and the southeastern part of Oklahoma as well, and you go through all the different regional universities. And so we're going to have to find that funding somehow and help, with the decrease in funding. You guys have lost courses, you've lost teachers, and you can go on down the line. We've got to be able to fund those. So, there's a plan. There's a plan also out there to kind of follow the Texas model, where now all of a sudden they're taking those regional universities and making those, whether it's the University of Texas at Arlington or the University of, A&M in Commerce and those kind of things. Don't want that. I want us to keep East Central University and keep it strong and keep it here in our town, because it provides such a vital importance to our community and to this area, as do all of the other regional universities. So it's very important, obviously, just like Danny said, that we fund those. No doubt about it.
I graduated from the University of Oklahoma. It took a while. I went to OU because it was easier to spell than ECU or OSU. With that thought in mind, what I would say is that there is a place to get money. At my university, we changed presidents. I love David Boren. He brought in tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into the university. But what the new president said when he walked in the door is we're $16 million upside down. I'm going, good grief, how can you be upside down when you own all that property on the north side of town, you own South Base, you got people donating left and right. Come to find out, a week later, he fired 1/3 of the staff in the president's office. The president showed us in part what we need to do to help find funding for education. What I want to do is rather simple. I want to go to every agency in the state government. I want to say, hey there, guy, let's see when's the last time you were audited? Oh, we're audited every year. When's the last time you had a forensic audit? 15 years ago. I'm saying, why? We need to go into every agency and find out where the waste is. Government has a tendency to look at problems, especially at the top of a pyramid. A pyramid in government looks like this. A business person sees it like this. I want to take those slopes off the top and eliminate the waste and bring, like Senator Tom Coburn has said, and like Mr. Stitt has now agreed to, is bring that money back into government and allow that money to come back to schools and allow that money to come back to our universities. I think there's a plan there that we can pull from and make our university here in Ada and our other schools around the state more important to the communities and more important where they are. Thank you very much.
So obviously funding is a big issue in a lot of things. Higher ed is just one example. The students wondered what your positions were when it came to taxes, new taxes, reducing taxes, and those kinds of things. Mr. Rhynes, why don't we start with you on that?
I'm opposed to going out and bringing in more taxes. As a businessman and as a middle-class person, it's a regressive process. You're taking money out of my pocket that I want to buy bread, I want to buy a car, I want to take care of my family. You take my money away every time I turn around. The city wants another penny, the state wants another penny, everybody wants another penny. I simply gave the plan here just a minute ago is let's go to where these state agencies are within the government and let's find a way to take some of the money that's being wasted. There's a lot of money being wasted in the state of Oklahoma. There also, we have 2 senators and we have 5 congressmen who can then find a way to milk the cow in Washington a little bit better. Let's work with each other, and as a legislator, I have more voice than if I do if I'm just sitting in the audience. And it's great that the audience is here and everyone's appreciated, but we need a voice there that's willing to go out there and push the buttons and work with the people necessary. And the big thing about it too, not for today but for tomorrow, is to work with our new lieutenant governor. And with him, we can then go out and then be able to bring in new jobs because he's running on a platform of bringing new jobs. Well, guess what I want to do? I'm bringing new jobs to Pontotoc County. With new jobs, we're able to have better income. With better income, we buy better houses. we then have more money to spend. We then have more money. A tax increase comes from moving up in income, not staying flat. When I spoke with the president of the university here, we had a talk about that. And what we talked about was you raise $1 tax on a pack of cigarettes. That's great. Now you have that many fewer smokers and you're actually bringing in less money than you were before. Let's think about what we're doing as we go and use business principles when we're making these decisions. And I'm glad to see some of the things that are coming down the pike that I really like. My friends in Oklahoma City are telling me that we're going to make some changes for education in the state of Oklahoma.
Thank you. Mr. Johns?
I think we can all see what happens to funding when we start reducing taxes. And that's what we've lived with for the last few years. And unfortunately, you know, it was with that Republican leadership. Here's what I would say, and no one likes new taxes. Nobody's for new taxes. And so I agree with Mr. Rhynes when he says we do need to look at the different state agencies. We need some reforms there. They need to be audited, and we need to see where we're wasting some money. And so here's what I'll say. You know, I've been in education for, this is my 33rd year, okay? And you could say I've lived off of an educator's salary my whole life since my mom and dad were both educators. And so I see that. I've seen it my whole life. For about, 18 to 20 years of my teaching career, we were under the majority in both houses were Democrats. Okay? We still hovered down at the bottom with teacher salary. And so I've seen the effect that, you know, a majority of Democrats didn't do a whole lot for education when they had power. Finally, in 1990, when you had the Democratic Congress and a Republican governor, the passage of House Bill 1017, which upped our teacher salary a little bit. I think we moved from around 48th or 49th up to 46 or 45, something like that. It wasn't a huge jump, but it was a jump, and we appreciated it. And so now you get in the last few years here where the Republicans have been, my party, have been in the majority. And we've cut taxes and things, and so now we're at the point where we are. And so what I would say is what they did last spring for our teachers and our teacher pay raise is a great start. But we're still 200 million short, 250 million short. Now, from what I've understood with the conversations I've had with the Speaker of the House and then also the floor majority leader, that money's going to be there when we get there in our next session. So that money's going to be there. We need to continue with our plan, or with really OEA's plan that they have in the next 2 years to have 400 to 450 million to continue what we're doing. We've got a great start. We've got a great start, but we've got to continue that. We've got to continue. And that's what we hope to do.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is impossible for a society to tax itself into prosperity. It's also impossible to cut our way to prosperity. We've proven that. So where are we going to get the money? Some of the things that we can do, since 2004, income tax on wage earners of over $200,000 and over $400,000 has been cut over 25%. Okay? Restoring those to what they were in 2004 can be a good place to start. We made some steps back in the spring by raising the gross production tax back up to 5%. We can go to 7% and still be very competitive with neighboring states. There's more money to be found there. Other money can be found with out-of-state corporations, right now, there are some of them that are able to avoid taxes. And with combined reporting, we can find money there because there are some large corporations that they're able to do bookkeeping certain ways and avoid income taxes there. So with legislation changing and requiring a combined reporting on some of those out-of-state corporations, we can get some money right there. Now, I don't want to pay more taxes than what I have to, but I want my children to have at least as good a school as what I had. You know, I want our roads to be safe. Whenever I drive somewhere in a fire truck, I want to be able to get there the shortest route possible and not have to take a detour and go around a bridge that's not suitable to hold up a fire truck because our county commissioners have less and less money to work with all the time. And you know what? There may be some waste, and I'm all for finding waste, but the current leadership that we've had in the past 8 or 10 years have been talking about waste. Well, they've had time to find it. It's hard to complain about waste whenever you're cutting the state budget for the audit, for the agency that does the audits. How are they going to find it if you don't have people there to find it? So, you know, there are some things that we can do. The moral of the story is you have to have balance. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of balance in Oklahoma right now, and the majority of us are suffering because of it. There's some at the very, very top, the top 2 or 3%, they're probably okay with it. The rest of us, us being so out of balance, we're paying the price. And I'm ready to take the steps that I mentioned to get us back to where we need to be, to restore Oklahoma to what it's capable of. Thank you.
Mr. Manuel, part of your answer leads us into our next question.
How can we fix and maintain Oklahoma's crumbling infrastructure?
Infrastructure is critical for a healthy economy, it's critical for a healthy state, and it's just critical for safety. You know, if we want to have safe drinking water, we need a good infrastructure to get it to us. If we want to be safe driving up and down the road, we need good roads and stuff for that. And with all of that comes more economic boom. And, you know, I spent 5 years working as a mechanic at Solo Cup. This was before it was dark. You know, and I saw firsthand how critical it is to have water, to have electricity, because if you lose either one of those, a factory such as Dart now that employs several hundred people, you're just dead in the water. You're not making any product. They're not making any money. So, you know, have an understanding of infrastructure. As a firefighter, guess what? If your house is on fire, if I don't have water, I can't put your house out. It's that important. So for our state to flourish, infrastructure, and infrastructure includes so much. Education, to me, is at the core of our infrastructure. Because if we want to attract good business and bring good jobs into our state, we have to have an educated workforce. We have to give our businesses and people a reason to want to come to our state. So to me, education is just foundational in that infrastructure. Technology is a part of that infrastructure. We need high-speed internet in every area of the state, in every part of the county, in Roth, in Allen, in Stonewall, in Van Alst, in Francis, and Bing, and everywhere else. And it needs to be affordable, it needs to be accessible, because our students are being required and asked to use technology more and more. They have to have internet whenever they get home to do that. So that's part of what we need to do to be able to provide this good education workforce and to be able to attract business. So, you know, our infrastructure, it's critical. It's critical for our business. It's just critical for so many areas of our state. And if we fail to invest in our infrastructure, we're failing to invest in the future of Oklahoma. Thank you.
Mr. Rhynes?
Three important things. We have infrastructure, we have education, and we have jobs. That's a circle. In this county, we're in a great situation. We have a wonderful university, we have VOTEC, we've got 7 wonderful high schools. We can create a workforce. We need to be working hand in glove between the university, the VOTEC, and the university, the VOTEC, and our schools, so that we can then turn around and put together what we need to have the right educated force. Agreed. We also need to have the infrastructure as far as water. Agreed. We also need to protect the land and the water. That's something that the last governor tried to give away. state of Texas. We can't allow that to take place. We must work so that we can bring in the right ideas for our infrastructure, our jobs, and our education. All three things are tied together. We can't have one without the other. I appreciate it.
Agree and agree. So important. So important. As far as our roads and bridges are concerned, from the conversations that I've had, you know, ODOT or our transportation departments on an 8-year plan, they are reducing the number of dangerous bridges by the day. They've cut that down. The money is there for that, and so we need to stay the course when it comes to roads and bridges. Stay that course and continue to let that money work so that we can provide for a great highway system in the state of Oklahoma. You know, traveling down this summer to Florida, you know, go through the state of Texas, great roads, you know, head into Louisiana. It was either Louisiana or Mississippi. I turned to my wife and I said, they've got roads like Oklahoma, you know. And then we go into the other states and they're really good. But we've got to let that money work, continue to work for us with that 8-year plan that in place for our transportation department, and continue to cut down on those dangerous bridges and that kind of thing. And the other two guys are exactly right. I mean, infrastructure is so important. Whether you're talking about water, okay, you know, our schools. I mean, it is. It's all the same. Internet access, exactly. And so we just got to make sure we're maintaining those and continue to move upward. And it's expensive. And so we're going to have to find a way to get that funded.
Mr. Rhynes, we'll address the next question to you. It's one that's ignited quite a bit of topic and discussion over the last several months.
What is your position on medical marijuana? How about recreational marijuana as well?
That's a slippery slope. I take a little bit of, not marijuana, but it's a hemp. And what it does is I take it under my tongue, take it every day, and it helps with my back, it helps with my joints. I'm a big believer in medical marijuana. Now, when we get to the other thing, let's say, well, let's see, where are we going to go with that one? We have too many people in jail over small things that have to do with marijuana, way too many people. You want to find money? Find money in jail. You know how much it costs to put a bracelet on somebody's ankle compared to putting somebody in a jail for a year? Let's find ways to work to get these people back into a productive place in society where they can be with their home, they can be with their family, and then we can deal with the marijuana in a different situation there. I'm not real big on individual use as far as just taking and puffing, but I will tell you I am highly in favor of taking it in liquid form for health. I think that's tremendous. I think we need to be careful though as far as, because you don't want to stretch yourself so far that all of a sudden you can't get back to first base when the pitch is thrown.
Like Mr. Rhynes, I'm in favor of medical marijuana. The thing that I've had a very difficult time doing, that I'll admit to you, is separating marijuana illegal drug to marijuana medicine. And so I've had a difficult time wrapping my head around that, but I've been able to do that. And so I'm all for medical marijuana, not for recreation use. My main concern with medical marijuana, of course, where I live, is in the school system. And that's something that Mr. Anderson and I are in the process, and the rest of the school administration, trying to wrap our brains around that and how we're going to handle that situation. So definitely for medical marijuana, but I've got a lot of reservations before I could say I would be in for recreation.
In over 20 years of responding to emergencies of all natures, I can honestly say that I've responded to many, many more medical emergencies involving prescription drugs than I have marijuana. And I understand that marijuana can be a good alternative for some people that have health needs. And if something such as marijuana can help people with their pain, with their seizures, with other needs, if there's a safe way of administering that and there are appropriate safeguards taken for the rest of the citizen population, I want people to be able to get relief, especially if it can come at a much lower price than what some people are paying for prescriptions. Because we all know people that there are times to where they basically almost have to choose between, well, am I going to buy prescriptions or am I going to buy food? And we shouldn't be in that situation. That kind of goes a whole other direction that needs to be addressed. But if we can help people with medical marijuana, I want to be able to help people. As far as recreational stuff goes, I have friends in the fire service in Colorado, and what they have experienced since they approved recreational use is they have actually had an increase in incidents of responding to children emergencies, and it was actually from children that had gotten into the grown-ups gummies and stuff like that, the stuff that was appealing to children. And there may be a day whenever recreational marijuana comes to Oklahoma, and whenever that day comes, if I'm at the Capitol building, I want to make sure that we do it the most responsible way that we possibly can, the safest way that we possibly can. Because it may happen whether some of us want it to or not, but if and when it does, there are certain things that we need to do. We need to make sure that we're protecting children, and we need to make sure that we are doing it in a way that is economically sound and is an economic benefit, because there can be money that can be raised there. And I believe that there are other states that we can learn from. We can learn what has worked in other states, and then we can learn what hasn't worked. And we can take that, and whenever that day comes, we can apply it here in a way that best serves our citizens without a lot of the risk associated with it. And I believe some of this could result in a reduction in prison population. And that's something that can help our communities and alleviate some of the financial burden that our states and communities are under as well. But I want us to be smart and responsible, give people help that need help, and learn from what other states have done and be responsible. Thank you.
So our sitting state senator, Senator McCourtney, is a Republican. He covers all of our county, and we wonder how each of you will work with Senator McCourtney, if elected, to try to focus on issues that are really important to Pontotoc County. Mr. Johns, you're the Republican. We'll start with you on that, and then Mr. Rhynes and Mr. Manuel.
I have a very good relationship with Senator McCourtney. Our relationship goes back to when he was in high school, and I happened to be a teacher, not at the high school, but at the junior high. And he was there at the junior high, as a matter of fact, when I didn't teach Greg, I don't think, but he was there at the junior high. And so our relationship goes back a long way. Feel like he and I can work obviously very well together, both number one being Republicans and number two, just because we're familiar with each other. And so I see no problem with working with Senator McCourtney to help District 25.
My great privilege to serve for 10 years on the school board with Greg's dad. Great man, great family. I have no problem with Greg. I'll help him every way I can. That was supposed to be a laugh line. I I think he's a good guy. I think he will work well with, and I think I can work well with him. And I know that together, his love for this county, and even Garvin County, I hate to throw Garvin County in, but even for Garvin County, I think he'll do wonderful things for them as well. But he and I can work with business and work, because he has a business acumen just like I do. Business people think a little bit different than people that are not in business, because you always have to plan for tomorrow, the day after, the month after, the year after. And even though your plans don't come into fruition, you still have to have a plan. And I think Greg is that type of person. I know that he and I, with the background we've had through the years, it's not be an issue at all.
I have an established working relationship with Greg McCourtney already. Greg served on our Ada City Council. And as a firefighter that is involved in things, not just want to sit back idly and complain, I had a relationship with Greg because of being an involved firefighter. Greg and I had many conversations over how things were going in our city, involving management, involving the fire service. We had a lot of conversations about fire station location. We all remember the penny for our city whenever we voted to, build a new fire station, police station. We had a lot of conversations about that. And there was a time whenever Greg was actually in favor of a combined police and fire station. And I had multiple conversations with Greg about how we best serve our community with a separate fire and police station. And I stood before City Council and explained how we were able to better serve our citizens. And the City of Ada, part of their motto is how important customer service is. And if customer service is truly going to be important, then we have to remember the customer. So we already have an established working relationship. And there were times that we disagreed on some stuff. You know what? We got over it. In 2016, whenever he ran for Senate, I actually campaigned pretty hard for his opponent. Well, you know what? There was a time that our relationship may have been a little bit strained. He might avoid me just a little bit at church. But you know what? We still are good friends to this day. During the teacher walkout, I drove a school bus to the Capitol 3 different times with local teachers. It was a rented school bus, okay? Don't misunderstand me. It was paid for by someone else. I've sat in Greg's office multiple times and had discussions about what is best for our community. He sees my heart and knows that I care. Heck, I was on some of Greg's campaign literature whenever he ran for Senate. So we have an established relationship. He and I want what's best. We're going to work together. Susan Paddock, Democrat, Todd Thompson, Republican, they work together for the good of this county. Greg McCourtney and Daniel Manuel, we will work together for the good of Pontotoc County. You can count on it because we've already been doing it.
All right, we have time for just one last question, and we'll ask you, as you answer this question, to kind of wrap up your thoughts and make a final pitch to our voters here. And Mr. Rhynes, we'll start with you, Mr. Manuel, and then Mr. Johns will end with you. Alex, our final question.
Have you ever changed your mind on an issue, and can you give us an example?
Pretty hardcore. Don't change my mind very often. Change my mind on an issue. I'd say the closest thing probably would come maybe even to just maybe medical marijuana, because I didn't need it. But then once I started taking it, I said, that's a pretty good idea. That may be the biggest thing that I've changed my mind on as far as politics. Now, I've changed my mind concerning my children considerably. I used to be real hard on them, and now I'm trying to be very nice to them. I've made mistakes once or twice, maybe more, but I don't try to remember those situations. Overall, I'd say that I'm pretty lucky, pretty blessed, and I'd pretty much cover, I guess, the changing your mind. It's a good thing to be able to have that wisdom. And you think with age would come wisdom, maybe I'm not as wise as I think I am. So we'll go kind of let it go with that. Now, on the last part of it, I would say One of the things I think is really important to do as we look at the race is to find that individual among these three men, among these two men and myself, however you should say that. But what I really think you need to do is look at which one in your heart of hearts and in your head, after thinking about these things, who can move this county forward. Now, I'll tell you one thing I really like both people. They're willing to run for office, just like myself. They need to be applauded for that. Not yet, not yet, not yet. But what I would say, though, is that anyone that's going to deserves a certain amount of respect, and I really appreciate that. And when I look at everything and what you say as far as moving forward, I'm into history big time into history. Been to Gettysburg 3 times. You ever been to Gettysburg? It's a place that once you go to, it's like going to a church you've never been to before. There's a reverence that you feel in just being in that locale. I think everybody raise their hand kind of has that feeling. On the first day of battle, Union cavalry, mounted infantry, came across the hill. Saw Ewell's army coming up the road, Chambersburg Pike. 8,000 men. They had commander looked at them and said, you know, this can't be happening. We're not supposed to be meeting in this location. Send a runner back, tell me to bring the army forward. So they went ahead and set up a line to slow down the advance of the Confederates as they're moving into Gettysburg. The next thing that happened is they're sitting there trying to find a way to slow us down as they're being pushed back because you've got 2,500 men against 8,000. And then they turn around and say, here comes John Reynolds. I said, oh, thank God. First Corps, finally here. And they come up there and Reynolds speaks and says, I'll tell you what, we'll move my men in position, we'll stop them right here. This is the important place to do it. And he gets his men, he starts placing them in front of the Confederates as they're all out there. And he's sitting on his horse and he's giving his orders. He's saying, forward, men, line up, forward, for God's sake, forward. He turns his head and looks away and a minute ball hits him right behind the ear. Before he hits the ground, he's already dead. His men gather around him and carry him off the field. But the last thing he said, his last thought was, stop what they're doing and move forward. Get in position. And what I want to be able to do, this is a chance. We're in a place right now that we can really make a difference for our county. We can really make a difference for our state by who we elect. So take that in mind as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Yes, I have changed my position on issues before. I think that any time that we are unable to ever change our mind, I think we're in a dangerous position, and that can be very unhealthy. My example, I used to have zero sympathy for anyone that ever had issues with illegal substance abuse. I had no compassion for them. I had no sympathy for them. I thought, you know what, whatever they get, they deserve it. Well, and I'm ashamed to say that, but that's true. That's how I used to feel. I don't feel that way anymore. I understand that things happen that are sometimes beyond our control. Sometimes we make choices that we later regret. We make choices that take us down paths that we wish we hadn't gone down. A few weeks ago, I had a friend that I've made that works at Fresco's. She asked me one day, she says, hey, I'm graduating from drug court Friday. Can you be there? I looked at my calendar, I said, I'd love to. I went to drug court here in Pontotoc County a few weeks ago, and that was one of the most encouraging things that I've ever seen. So my position of zero compassion has changed to a position of, you know what, there are still consequences for our choices, but forgiveness is so very, very powerful. A helping hand is so very, very powerful. There are so many people that have so much to offer, but they make a bad choice or two, and it takes them down a wrong path. Sometimes they need some guidance. Sometimes they need a lot of guidance. But there's so many of our citizens and so many of us, there are probably people in this room that have made choices they wish they had, and I know I have, but sometimes we just need some direction. So instead of putting someone in an endless cycle that they can't get out of, I at least want to give them some opportunities to change that. So that's my example of where I'm going to say I was just wrong in how I looked at things, and now I look at things in a better, more positive light. So my final spiel, I believe tonight I've given numerous examples of how I've been active and involved in this community for my entire life. I've literally served the entire community as a firefighter. I've been in every town. Besides that, I've been all over the county, even as a kid, hauling hay, grew up on the farm and ranch. I understand the importance of agriculture in the community. Our county, even though it's not like it was 40 years ago, a lot of Pontotoc County is still used for agriculture. We have the Arbuckle-Simpson Aquifer right underneath of us. That's a big issue that we didn't even bring up tonight. I'm prepared to learn more about that. I'm prepared to protect our water because, you know what, there was a day whenever they said, well, water's going to cost more than gas someday, and if you're buying it in individual bottles, well, that day's pretty much here. And there was a time whenever we thought that was ludicrous, but, things have changed. Water is a very, very valuable resource, and, I'm already taking steps to learn to what's the steps we need to take to protect that. And other steps I've already been taking of learning, I've been going to the Capitol on a regular basis just as an advocate for emergency responders and for public education. I think I found a picture the other day from 2011 with me and some other firefighters and Susan Paddock. I've been involved. I think that means something. I've been walking the walk. I've been involved as an education advocate in our community for years. I think that means something. I served 3 years on the Ada Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I got a better glimpse into business in the community and what that means and just how so much stuff is interconnected together and how that just working together for our communities is what we have to do. It doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. It doesn't matter where you go to church or if you don't go to church. As citizens of Oklahoma and citizens of House District 25, we really are stronger whenever we work together. And I'm ready to be someone positive that's going to listen, that's going to work with someone with different views. I'm ready to take us forward. Like he said, we have to go forward. And I'm ready to be that person. And I believe I've already been walking the walk of a person that's moving forward for a long time. And in total confidence, I can say that that's why I'm the best person for this position. And you need to vote for Daniel Manuel on November the 6th. Thank you.
As an educator and a lifelong learner, I can say I've changed my positions on a lot of different things because as obviously you continue to learn and you continue to see what's best, then you change your mind. I too was totally against medical marijuana. I thought, are you kidding me? But then the more that I studied, the more that I visited with people, it changed my mind. I'm going to throw one out, another one that I'm going to throw out that some are going to disagree with. I was all for last spring getting rid of the capital gains tax. I was for that. But now, after doing research and studying and see how that affects farmers and ranchers in House District 25, I've changed my stance on that. I'm not for getting rid of that capital gains tax. Okay? They said, well, let's give the farmers and ranchers an exception. Well, how did you define that? How do you define that? And that's why Republicans and some others didn't just last spring say, okay, here's more funding for education. Let's go ahead and pass that and get rid of that. Okay? We've got to do more studying on that, and that's something we can't just dive into. Or otherwise, we're going to get ourselves in a bind of trying to what defines agriculture. Okay? So I've changed my stance on that. Now, again, let's go to the Capitol. Let's figure out how we can define that and what that looks like. And then let's see if we can put that on the table. Okay? And so I've changed my mind about that. And I'm stepping out there a little bit, but that's fine. Here's what I say for my last spiel, as we're saying tonight. Yes, I've been an educator for 33 years. I've been a passionate educator for 33 years. And here's what I'll say, and this is, you know, people have said, well, he's only been in education. Well, let me tell you where we would be if there were more educators up in Congress in Oklahoma City. Where would we be? Well, schools would be important. Not only secondary schools, but higher education schools. Right? We wouldn't have to worry about funding. So because of that, guess what? We wouldn't be leading the nation in per capita in sending people to prison. Why? Because they'd be educated. We wouldn't have as many people on welfare. Why? Because they would be educated, because educators were up in the Capitol putting a high premium on education. You could go down, you don't want to lead in teen pregnancy? Educate. Let's get rid of some of the testing that's out there that teachers have to pound and pound and pound so that we can get an A through, get an A on our report card. Give us time to teach responsible and being, what happens, the consequences of being sexually active. You can go down the list of our problems. Drug problems, educate. So I will never back down from being an educator for 33 years. Dadgummit, I love it. And one of the downfalls of when I get elected, one of the downfalls is going to be I can't be in my school. But here's what I do think, and here's what I'm going to propose when I get there. Let's require every legislator up at the Capitol to spend time in a public school, in that public school setting. Not with the superintendent, no offense, Mr. Anderson, and not even with the principal. Be in the classroom with those teachers that their boots are on the ground. Get there. And now, get that experience of what our teachers are going through so that they can go back up to the Capitol and make some good, educated decisions about education. If you want to get rid of problems, educate. Education is the key. You want a more employable, that's not right, employable workforce, educate. It's pretty simple. So if there would have been more educators in Congress at Oklahoma City, we wouldn't be talking today about education being a problem. It wouldn't have happened. Why? Because they had made sure education was taken care of. That's my spiel. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Let's give them all a round of applause. All right, we'll switch into our forum for our district attorney candidates. Gentlemen, if you'll come take your spots, we'll turn the time over to Alex for introductions.
Okay, so the first person I'm introduced is Paul Smith. Paul Smith is currently the district attorney for Pontotoc, Seminole, and Hughes counties, which make up judicial district